My name is Ethan, and not so long ago, I thought my life was perfect. At 28, I had already achieved a lot. I had a prestigious job at a large IT company in San Francisco, a luxurious apartment with a view of the bay, and most importantly, a gorgeous girlfriend, Olivia, whom I had been dating for 3 years. We met in college and knew from the first sight that we were meant for each other. After graduation, we decided to move to California together to start a new life. At first it was tough. We had to work hard to pay the rent and bills, but we managed, supporting each other. Gradually, my career took off. I got several promotions and became a lead programmer in my company. Olivia was not lagging behind. She got a job at a prestigious advertising agency and quickly established herself as a talented copywriter. We traveled a lot, went to parties, made plans for the future. I was saving money for the wedding and the house of our dreams, and Olivia was already hinting that she wouldn't mind becoming Mrs. Wilson in the near future. It seemed that nothing could darken our perfect life. We were young, successful, and madly in love. Every morning I woke up with a smile, knowing that another wonderful day with my beloved girl was ahead of me. On weekends, we often went out of town to the coast. We sat on the beach, admiring the sunset, built sandcastles like children, and dreamed about our life together. Olivia wanted 3 kids, and I dreamed of a big house with a white picket fence and a golden retriever. But as we know, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. In our case, the perfect picture cracked on one fateful day when I found out that Olivia was cheating on me. It happened 3 months before our supposed wedding. I had just ordered a diamond ring and was planning a romantic weekend in Napa to propose to Olivia. But all my plans collapsed in an instant when her friend Jessica called me and said she had seen Olivia in a restaurant with another man. At first, I didn't believe it. I convinced myself that it was some mistake, that Olivia couldn't have done this to me. But the worm of doubt had already settled in my heart. I began to notice that Olivia was increasingly staying late at work, acting strange, and avoiding conversations about our future. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and interrogated her. Olivia burst into tears and confessed that she had met someone else, some German businessman who promised her mountains of gold and castles on the Rhine. She said that she loved me, but wanted to start a new life in Europe. I was crushed. I couldn't believe that the girl I loved more than life had betrayed me at the most critical moment. All our plans, dreams, hopes, everything was shattered. I felt deceived, abandoned, unwanted. A week later, Olivia flew to Germany, leaving me to deal with the shards of our love. I was so depressed that I didn't even go to work, lying on the couch in my pajamas for several days. Friends tried to support me, but I didn't want to see anyone. It seemed to me that my life was over. Olivia's betrayal came as a real shock to me. Even a few weeks after she left, I still couldn't realize that it was actually happening. Every morning I woke up hoping that everything that had happened would turn out to be just a bad dream, that Olivia hadn't gone anywhere and we were still together and happy. But reality quickly dispelled my illusions. Half of the closet in the bedroom was gaping empty. There was no familiar smell of freshly brewed coffee in the kitchen, and the answering machine no longer blinked with cheerful messages from Olivia. She had disappeared from my life as suddenly as if she had never existed. I tried to analyze our relationship, recalling every little detail, looking for any hints that Olivia was unhappy with me, but I found nothing. We had always been so close, sharing all our secrets and experiences. At least that's what I thought. Gradually, the shock was replaced by anger. How could she do this to me? How could she throw everything away for the first man she met? Did our love, our life together, mean nothing to her? These questions tormented me day and night. To distract myself, at least somehow, I immersed myself in work. I took on additional projects, stayed late at the office, trying to forget myself in the lines of code. Colleagues looked at me in surprise, but I ignored their glances. Work became my salvation, the only way not to go crazy with grief and longing. After a couple of months, the pain subsided a bit, but did not disappear completely. I still thought about Olivia every day, replaying our happy moments in my head, trying to understand at what point things went wrong. Sometimes it seemed to me that I was going crazy. Gradually, I began to learn the details of her new life. Mutual acquaintances told that she had settled in a luxurious villa on the banks of the Rhine, drove an expensive car, and denied herself nothing. Her new lover, Klaus, turned out to be the owner of a chain of car dealerships and literally showered Olivia with gifts. Every new detail was like a knife to the heart. I couldn't believe that my modest and homely Olivia had turned into a glamorous socialite who left me for money and status. It was so unlike the girl I knew and loved. One day I mustered up the courage and called her. I wanted to hear her voice, to ask how she could do this to me. But Olivia was cold and detached. She said she didn't want to stir up the past, that she had a new life, and I had to let her go. After that conversation, I felt even worse. Months passed, but it didn't get any easier. I continued to work like a madman, barely seeing friends and not noticing anything around me. My apartment turned into a bachelor's den, littered with pizza boxes and empty bottles. I stopped taking care of myself and began to drink quietly. My parents sounded the alarm, trying to cheer me up, but I brushed off their attempts to help. It seemed to me that no one was able to understand my pain, my despair. I withdrew into myself, losing interest in life and those around me. I spent almost a year in this suspended state. The calendar counted off the days and weeks, and I drifted, seeing no point in changing anything. It seemed that my life was over, and there was nothing good ahead of me. A year had passed since Olivia left for Germany. A whole year I was in a stupor, not living, but existing. Work, home, work. That was all that filled my days. I hardly communicated with anyone, avoiding friends and acquaintances. Any conversations, any attempts to cheer me up ran into a deaf wall of alienation. But gradually, without even noticing it myself, I began to thaw. Maybe it was the support of my family, or maybe my body was just tired of the constant stress and decided to take over. I began to notice little things that I hadn't paid attention to before. The bright spring sun, the first greenery on the trees, the smiles of passers-by. One day I caught myself thinking that I hadn't thought about Olivia all day. It was the first time in a long while that her image didn't haunt me every minute. I was surprised, but then I realized that I was gradually beginning to let go of the past and come to terms with what had happened. Of course, the pain didn't go away. It still lived somewhere deep inside, reminding me of itself with a prickly chill in my chest. But I was learning to live with it, learning to accept the fact that Olivia was no longer with me and never would be. On the advice of friends, I started seeing a therapist. At first I resisted, thinking that I could handle it myself. But then I realized that professional help wouldn't hurt. In the sessions, I talked about my feelings, about my pain and resentment. I poured out everything that had accumulated over the year, and it made me feel better. The therapist helped me understand that Olivia's leaving was not my fault, that I couldn't have prevented her decision and shouldn't blame myself for her choice. That life doesn't end with one person, no matter how loved they were. Gradually, I began to come out of my shell. I started meeting friends more often, going to parties, playing sports. I signed up for Spanish classes, which I had been dreaming about for a long time. Life was slowly getting back on track. Of course, thoughts of Olivia didn't go away. I often caught myself thinking about how she would react to this or that situation, what she would say about my successes and failures. Sometimes I even talked to her in my mind, telling her about my affairs and experiences. But these were already bright memories, devoid of bitterness and pain. I was beginning to understand that my relationship with Olivia, however wonderful it was, had come to an end, and that it was okay to let go of the past and move on. I began to appreciate more what I had, my job, my friends, my family. I started making plans for the future, no longer tying them to another person. For the first time in a long time, I felt that I could breathe deeply again. I remember once walking in the park, I suddenly caught myself smiling, just like that, for no reason. And at that moment, I realized that I was slowly coming back to life, that, despite all the shocks and losses, I was still able to be happy. Since then, another year has passed. The pain of losing Olivia was no longer so acute. It had dulled, covered with a thin crust. Sometimes I remembered our past with sadness and nostalgia, but without anguish or despair. Life went on, and I tried to keep up with the times. That day, I was working late at the office as usual. Immersed in the program code, I didn't notice how it got dark outside and the parking lot emptied. I only came to my senses when my stomach growled loudly, hinting that it was time for dinner. I stretched, flexing my stiff muscles, and glanced at the clock. Almost 9 in the evening. It was probably time to wrap up and go home. Tomorrow promised to be a tough day, a presentation of a new project to the management that I'd been preparing for the last few weeks. Already approaching the car, I suddenly heard a familiar voice that made my heart skip a beat. "Ethan!" Someone called me from behind, and I froze in place, not believing my ears. I slowly turned around and saw her. Olivia, my ex-fiancée, who had left for Germany 2 years ago to be with another man. She was standing a few steps away from me, as beautiful as ever. A slender figure, clad in skinny jeans and a leather jacket, long chestnut hair, green eyes in which excitement splashed. I looked at her and couldn't say a word. "Ethan, I'm so glad to see you," she exhaled, taking a step towards me, but I recoiled as if from a blow. All those feelings that seemed to have already dulled suddenly rushed in with renewed vigor. Pain, resentment, anger. For 2 years I had been learning to live without her, learning to accept her choice, and now she was here again, as if nothing had happened. "What are you doing here?" I squeezed out hoarsely, feeling a lump rising in my throat. Olivia wrung her hands in an involuntary gesture, as she always did when nervous. "I'm back, Ethan. For good. I made a mistake by leaving then, and I came to ask for your forgiveness." I let out a bitter chuckle. "Forgiveness? Now? After everything you've done?" I looked into her eyes and saw no remorse there, only confusion and some childish resentment, as if it was my fault that she had left me. I thought I loved Klaus. I thought he would give me everything I dreamed of, a luxurious life, travel, expensive gifts. But I was wrong. He turned out to be completely different from what I imagined. Domineering, rude, cruel. I was just a beautiful toy for him, nothing more. And when I realized that, it was too late. Tears were streaming down Olivia's cheeks, but it didn't touch me. I had cherished my pain for too long to just let it go like that. "So what now? You decided to come back to your backup plan? Remembered me when your German dumped you?" "No, Ethan, it's not like that," she exclaimed, trying to take my hand, but I pulled my hand away. "He didn't dump me. I dumped him. I realized that I had made the biggest mistake of my life by leaving you. You are my true love, Ethan, and I hope you can forgive me." She looked at me with such hope that I felt sick. Just 2 years ago, I would have given anything to hear those words, to have her come back to me, repentant and realizing that our love was more important than anything else. But now I felt only emptiness and disappointment. "I'm sorry, Olivia, but I can't. I can't just take it and forget everything that happened. You broke my heart, betrayed me at the moment when I needed you the most. And now, 2 years later, you want me to pretend that nothing happened? I'm sorry, but it doesn't work that way. But Ethan, I love you, and I know you love me too. Can't we start over?" There was desperation in her voice, but it didn't touch me anymore. "No, Olivia. What we had died the day you flew to Germany. I let you go. I accepted your choice, and I don't want to go back to the past. I'm sorry things didn't work out with Klaus, but that's not my problem. Goodbye, Olivia." I turned and walked to the car, feeling everything inside me turning over from pain and anger. Tears were choking me, but I didn't let them fall. Not in front of her. Not now. Already getting behind the wheel, I heard Olivia shouting after me, "You'll regret it, Ethan. You're missing your chance." But I just shook my head and started the engine. "No, Olivia, it's you who missed your chance. When you decided that someone else could make you happier than me, now it's too late to change anything." All the way home, I thought about our conversation, about how close I was to believing her, to letting her back into my life. But then I remembered all the pain she had caused me, and I knew I had done the right thing. Did you like this story? Let us know in the comments what you liked. Subscribe to our storytelling podcast. Also, don't forget to like and ring the bell so you don't miss more interesting stories. See you soon.